Hey everybody, Mark Stedman here with an announcement about some pretty significant changes that we've made to Port on your behalf. About a month ago, we realized that we needed a little bit more visibility into the status of events. Previously, we just had basically an active status for events, and then you would mark the event as complete. But this sometimes led to misunderstanding of an event and then the workshops and whether or not the event was for sure going to happen or whether it was still being worked on and what the dates were going to be and those kinds of things. So we added a couple of new status options to events, and then of course we also need projects and workshops to match those statuses as well because they're all related together. So let me give you a quick overview. And before I get to events, I'm actually going to start with looking at projects because the changes to projects are perhaps a bit more extensive. So previously, you'll recall we had discussing projects, and then you had prepping projects. So they would go to prepping once a project was scheduled for work at an event. So we've added two additional statuses in between discussing and prepping, and those are number 2, approved, and number 3, planning. And I've actually created 6 system views here at the top of projects so that you can quickly see which projects are in what status. So you're familiar with discussing, that's where you would put in a project that a partner had talked about doing with us, or perhaps identified a language that that you would like to have, try to get a project going in, and you're looking for a partner, things like that, where the project is still not locked in. We're not sure if it's going to happen. We are still thinking about whether or not the language is getting worked on by somebody else or whether we have the right kind of partner, all those kinds of questions. And so it is in discussing. Now you can take a discussing project and move it forward to the approved status. So what approved means is we're done with discussions. We've decided this is a project that WA wants to support and be involved with. And so I'm going to move that from discussing to approved for work, which means it's ready to be scheduled at an event. So if I open up a project that is in discussing status, here it says project status discussing. You just drop this down and switch it out to approved. Save those changes, and now it's approved. So that's it. And what that does is that then gives you a bucket of being able to quickly look at what projects are ready to be worked on. So previously, right now we have 378 projects in discussion. Well, how do you know which of those are approved for work? You don't. It means you have to email and send a list and say, well, these are approved and that kind of stuff. Now you can keep track of it right inside of Port. Everybody has visibility into it. So if I switch over to approved projects, there they are. There's one here that I just did as a test, and I'm going to make a note so I can change that back. But here's another one that was marked off as approved sometime between when we released this into production and today. So that's pretty straightforward. Projects still get created in discussion. After the discussions are complete, you move them over to approved. So what that means for events is now for events, we have this concept of a planning event. So the event is being planned, and then we have scheduled events. So same thing, we've got a couple of views here right at the top of the list. So if we look at planning events, we've got 41 of them in here. The Pacific region is already taking advantage of this. Thanks, Joe Jervis. The planning status means, hey, we know we want to do this. The work is approved. We are still working on the dates, locations, that kind of stuff. The details aren't finalized. We recognize the world of Bible translation moves quickly. And so we want to have a place where we can mark that we're working on planning all these events, but if they're not ready to be reported to donors, we're not sure about the dates. Those things are all still in flux. Therefore, they are a planning event. When that's done, then they get switched over to scheduled. So the way that works is, let's take this one for example. Okay, you can see here, status, planning. Been doing all that stuff. Now I'm at a place where, okay, the dates are good. We know that's all good. I would just grab the status, switch it to scheduled, save it up. Takes a minute because in the background it's updating a bunch of other related data. Specifically, it's updating all the workshops and projects. So you can see these are saying planning, and in a second when it's done saving, it's going to reload and they will all have gone to scheduled. There you go. They all just updated to scheduled because I updated the status to scheduled. And in fact, if we went and we looked at these projects, they would also have been updated depending on what status they were already in. Because this is live data, I'm now going to switch it back to planning because I don't like to mess with other people's data. Sorry, Joe Jervis, but I promise I put everything back the way I found it. So back to planning, back to planning. All right, everything is good. When I look at my list of events, we now have 41 events in planning, and we have 45 and scheduled. That is good. That gives visibility to leadership for talking to donors and things like that. The ones that are marked as scheduled mean we are planning on doing these and we have the dates locked in and all of that good stuff. What this means for you, if these are new changes for you that you were not aware of and you are planning events and they are in that status of, I'm not completely sure whether or not these dates are for sure, maybe it's going to change or flex. Come in here, grab your event, open it up, and just switch it to planning. That way it doesn't get reported on prematurely and gives you a place to work that makes life a lot simpler for you. So that's it. We got two new views for events. We got planning and schedule, pretty obvious what's going on there. And then in projects, we've got discussing approved planning. So planning projects goes with planning events. Once a project has been approved and then it's been attached to an event, it will automatically move to planning. So we should have a bunch of planning projects in here. Again, that's automated. All you have to do is update the event and all of the attached projects, which are scheduled to have a workshop at the event, automatically move forward to planning. And then they will actually go to prepping when you move the project from planning to scheduled. So scheduled means the event is locked in, therefore the project moves from planning to prepping. It means you're preparing. People are getting equipment ready, you're getting your volunteers lined up to help facilitate the event and all of that good stuff. The rest of it is the same. Once the event is marked as complete and all the workshops are marked as complete, the projects that got worked on, if they were not already in progress, they become marked in progress. They get things like scripture start dates, translation start dates, and whatnot. And you have these KPIs to look at as well. So just a note on the KPIs, there was some questions about these. These are key performance indicators. Our COO, Tim Nye, has asked for those. They basically represent whether or not something needs to be followed up on, whether it's time for it to be followed up on. This is a great example. This has a red KPI on scripture start date because the scripture start date is 2016. And so it was started more than a year ago. In fact, it was started more than 3 years ago. So that red indicator means, hey, it's time for some follow-up on this one. On the planned completion date, it's yellow because that's coming up in the next 6 months. So the idea would be we should get in contact with the group that's doing that translation, see how it's going, see if there's any way that we can support them and help them. So those KPIs are just a quick way for you to be able to look down the list of projects that are in your area and see if any of them need some attention from you. That's it. I hope this is helpful. Please don't hesitate to email me back or hit me up on Teams or even give me a call in the office if that's your thing. Mark_Stedman at WickliffeAssociates.org. I'm happy to try to improve support additionally for you. Just let us know what you need. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.